Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Will, that's Blake, and today we're talking a little Ravening War. And you know what?
Ooh.
I'm ravenous to talk about it. Um, Super excited. The finale, it's over,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
so sad.
but I'm excited to dive into it. And let's get right into it. But real quick, as always, couple of announcements. Well, not really announcements, but on the docket, we got our Critical Role coverage coming your way.
Yep.
Worlds Beyond Number, The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One coming your way. And we recently put out a little Diablo video talking about the insane rarity of super uniques. Um, some of you will know what I'm talking about. Others probably are like, what? Check out the video.
Spoiler,
It's short and
you'll
sweet.
never
Yeah.
you'll never find one. You can
Yeah.
just there's your answer.
It's like a 1 in 100 million chance,
Yeah, you don't
basically.
even have to watch the video. That's the answer, is you will
Yep.
never find one.
Spoilers,
So
that's it. Um, and yeah, and also if you've been keeping an eye on the channel, we have started to kind of put out some compilations, some clips of our favorite moments from mostly Critical Role thus far, but there's a couple Ravening War ones, and that's something we want to do more frequently. So if you've got like a specific moment from the Ravening War, it doesn't have to be from the Ravening War, but if you're watching this, you're probably interested in that. Let us know, because we're having fun, kind of going back and revisiting these really fun moments.
mhm.
Anything else before we get going?
I think we're ready to rock.
All right, let's do it. And as always, we're going to do a little bit of a recap before we dive into our proper discussion. We cut that recap out, host it on YouTube for your viewing convenience. And so if you're on the recap video and you would like to hear our full thoughts and discussion on this episode, you'll be able to find a link to that down in the description box below. But my friend, if you would like to start us off today.
Yes, sir. So this episode is a bit of a bloodbath. It's the final episode, like Will mentioned, of this mini series, and it picks up with the party deep in this fungus network of the Seventh Kingdom down below Pengranos, where the battle to end the Ravening War is essentially taking place at this point. The party has learned of sort of the master plan to release toxic spores to wipe out the leaders of both sides and sort of usher in even more conflict and desolation. And the party has stepped into this sort of quasi Colosseum arena where they see before them the heart of the world, this hulking mass of I don't know what they called it actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but essentially, yeah,
Mycelium, that's a word they threw out a lot. Yeah,
it's big mushroom heart.
Yeah.
And they also spot a number of the FDA who are present, notably Camille Cauliflower, who removes her hood and sort of welcomes the party in. And before much happens, there's also the identification of Ariana Ghibli.
Gemelli, something like that.
Nailed it. The love interest of our friend D'Alessandro. Well, maybe one way love interest. And essentially, it's in this moment that Archdeacon Raphaniel realizes that, there's really no getting out of this or talking our way through this. So he's going to do Subtle Spell and cast Shatter on Camille Cauliflower. And there's also a couple other things too. There's also some other FDA members present, and also the elder. I want to say Sapporo. That's not right. Sapporo.
Saprophus.
Saprophus, thank you. I'm thinking I'm naming like a jewelry store or something. Savaro Pizza. The elder, the leader of them, is also present. This disgustingly described creature that Matt explains. But all this to say, combat begins. And what we typically do in combat is we usually just cover the highlights. Most of this episode is combat, so there's actually a lot of really big moments that happen. One of the things that's going to happen is Rathaniel is going to set his sights on Camille Cauliflower immediately, who, interestingly enough, doesn't fight back. She actually turns to this heart of the world, mycelium heart mass, and begins praying and chanting, which they're like, that can't be good. We should do
Yeah.
something about that. Colin Provolone's instantly going to jump into that as well to try to stop her. D'Alessandro is actually going to go for Ariana, and it kind of is just like, you lied to me. You told me if I united the Meatlands that, we'd have a place together, or there'd be a spot for us. And Ariana's like, well, it wasn't you. It was the other guy, Basher,
Basha, yeah.
Basha.
Cold, man. Cold
Yeah,
hearted.
it was like, well, it was Basha who united the meat clans. And there's this really great moment, a throwback to a previous episode that I had forgotten about, where he basically says, I saved myself for you. And Rapunzel's like, this dude's a virgin? Which, if you recall back, I think it was in episode 2, there's like a running gag around D'Alessandro's friend being like, it's not as great as, or I can't remember what it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
but just a really funny conversation about it. So this is very much sad, cringy moment of D'Alessandro being like, how could you do this to me? Ariana's actually can get distracted, though, because she looks over to Cauliflower and is kind of like, wait, what are you chanting? Like, what are you doing? And so there's this moment where people are, this isn't going to plan like the FDA thought it would. Quiche is also going to show up from behind a croissant and immediately is going to attack Amango. And it's kind of like, it's just business. Sorry, guys. And is a bit impressed by Amango's sort of progression into being a worthy, roguish fighter of herself. Also, what happens in combat after another round is they continue to try to hit Cauliflower to stop whatever she's doing. And she eventually turns around and just smiles and says, he's coming. And her form begins to morph and evolve and change into this evil creature that is defined by metal blades. And her head sort of splits open to reveal this giant, best way I could describe it, a giant garbage disposal.
That's
Just a
exactly what it is, yeah.
whirring cavity in her mouth of sharp teeth. And she becomes the avatar of Deus Pasul,
Yep.
who is essentially the blender god, essentially.
The disposal
And
god.
the disposal god. That's
Yeah.
right. Thank you for food that is getting wasted, which we'll talk more about that in the episode or the discussion. Also, she's going to summon around the arena these similar garbage disposals that pop up that not only are present, but that she can move at will around the arena. And also, on top of spawning these, if a party member is within, I think, 20 feet or 10 feet of one, they have to succeed on a strength saving throw to not get sucked into it and chewed up. Quiche is going to fail getting sucked into it. Matt is way too good at making garbage disposal sounds.
Yeah.
And essentially, Quiche is stuck in it, and after a couple of rounds is obliterated by it and is no more. Rathaniel has this awesome moment where he turns to Amango and admits that it was him who was poisoning or who poisoned her late husband, and sort of says his goodbyes before diving directly into the mycelium heart, whereupon in here he connects with the mycelium heart and is he allows himself to be totally vulnerable and exposed and essentially feels right at home. And it's kind of like he's sitting into like the Matrix. He's jacked into the Matrix now, and he begins sort of trying to help the party from this spot by essentially casting spells like Cure Wounds. Basically, what ends up happening is he connects with this heart to a point where he activates. This is a really cool detail from Matt.
Yeah.
He activates a lair action where the lair of the mycelium heart not only will release spores to help people, but also begins raising up warriors that they can use at their side. The battle continues with the party trying to take care of this avatar. Notably, D'Alessandro decides to take care of the elder And to the Elder, by the way, is just this gargantuan figure who keeps releasing these poisonous spores across the party. And Delisandro uses one of his fighter maneuvers to essentially push the Elder into the one of the garbage disposal blades, which doesn't kill it, but it does chunk it up pretty badly for around, I think, 30 hit points or so. But do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. So this combat's crazy. Karna has taken a ton of damage due to being sucked into the Avatar's mouth. The Avatar meaning Bishop Cauliflower, who has transformed into this disposal entity. Um, so she's looking really rough. Deli has just pushed the Elder into one of these disposals on the ground. The Elder does manage to pull itself out of it. Um, but as we're working through the initiative, Ariana Gemelli, who has still just basically been stunned this entire time,
Right.
gets sucked in to another one of these disposals and is just annihilated.
Yeah.
Rathaniel, again, jacked into the Matrix, actually pumps a Cure Wounds into the heart, and in so doing, kind of unlocks another use of that legendary action that Blake was describing, or excuse me, or legendary or lair. I can't.
Lair action. Yeah,
Okay,
it's a lair action.
that's
Yeah.
right. And so they get to create another Saprofen to like join them and aid them in the battle. Also, Rathaniel does kind of make an insight check on the heart and realizes that the mycelium did indeed want to unleash these spores to kill all the people above. Even though they weren't clear on this whole Despazul aspect of this plan with the Archbishop, the rot concoction that we saw in the previous episode was indeed its desire. So Rathaniel tries to say that like, hey, we'll find another way to help you, feed your people. Um, so like, essentially saying we're united on this front, but like, that big bomb you're wanting to set off, like, let's not do that.
Yeah, maybe not
um
that.
then we have another layer action that I think Blake already mentioned, but the heart releases spores that actually
Right.
heal the entire group.
Right.
um so moving on, the Avatar is next turn. She attacks Karna once again and actually kills her. So Matt asks, what are your last thoughts? And Aabria says, I've already died, so like I'm not scared.
Bonus time.
Yeah, and she basically just looks at Deli and is obliterated. Because of this, Deli, of course, sees red and just rushes and attacks the Avatar. It uses a legendary action on him to devour the flesh and hits a nat 20. But thankfully, we find out that Deli has this certain adamantium armor that makes him immune to
Yeah.
crits. So he still takes a ton of damage, but obviously half as much as he would have
I
taken.
think I think Brennan says because he also is raging, so with half's that. I think Brennan off
Oh,
camera mentions
right.
it was going to be 80 points of damage,
That's right. So yeah, thank
which is
goodness.
like instant KO.
Yeah. So he, is able to withstand that. Combat continues. Rathaniel actually, a disposal mouth comes into the heart where he is and actually sucks him into it, and he is annihilated. So Brennan describes his last moments, and he basically says, I've connected to the first place where I've felt like home. I spent my life lying, torturing. I've been a fool, a wretch, and I have wasted my life. My mind and my heart were garbage. Let them be disposed, but let my body serve the only warmth I've ever known.
Hmm.
Great moment. So, two of our players are down. Combat continues with the rest of the party, doing their absolute best, which ultimately leads to Colin getting the how do you want to do this moment on the Avatar, on the Archbishop Cauliflower, striking it and sending her into a nearby ground disposal and just gets torn up. As soon as that happens, the other disposals on the ground kind of grind to a halt, and combat has essentially come to an end. Um, and Deli is sitting there wondering, like, we don't even have time to think about what just happened because is this rot bomb still going to go off and kill everyone above ground, or has that changed? Like, do we have an alliance now? So Deli actually walks up and touches the mycelium to connect with it like he did in the previous episode. And he feels this overwhelming gratitude flow into him from it. The heart kind of transmits that it has a better understanding of the surface dwellers now. And through his connection with this, Deli can actually feel the battle above through the extensions of this mycelium network. And he can feel it call them to withdraw from the conflict. Um, and seemingly, it will no longer release this spore bomb. So Deli then wonders, like, okay, that awesome, but are you going to let us go? And this mycelium network, the heart of the world, is torn between wanting to help them, but knowing that the survival of it and its people relies on secrecy, relies on no one knowing they exist. Um, and in this moment, Deli can feel the mycelium killing all of the FDA members that are like down here in the network in order to maintain that secret. So he then feels it ask, like, can you guys keep this secret if I let you go? So Deli kind of turns to Colin and Amon Go and is like, can we keep this secret? And it's a group persuasion check. We have Amon Go hit a 25, but Colin hits a 3 and Deli hits a nat 1. So the heart of the world like emits this sadness and the
It's like,
three of
this is awkward.
yeah. uh
We're gonna
and they
have
realize like
to.
they gotta run or they're never gonna see the light of day again. So then we have this really cool sequence with the three of them basically making a break for the surface, and they're kind of backtracking through all of the rooms that they have come through, both in this episode and the previous episode. So it's kind of a cool like sequence. And all the while, the like mycelium roots, if you will, are like chasing them. Spores are being emitted, um, and they basically have to like outrun these spores, or else they're constantly taking poison damage. And as they run through kind of the portion of the city that they had come through, then the citizens of Saprophis start chasing them as well as the like the heart of the world starts like mind controlling
Mhm.
them essentially.
Yeah.
Because of this, Deli is like, all right, I'm gonna make the sacrifice play, and he just like tackles a group of these people so that Amongo and Colin can make their way through. Um, but Colin doubles back and is like, I'm not gonna let you do that. So he goes back and helps Deli, and they all end up continuing to run. They make it back to the bridge room with the big pool of rot, and of course they have to navigate over this. Both Amongo and Colin do, but Deli does not. He is unable to make the save, and so he falls into this rot, taking more damage and falling further behind. Um, Colin once again helps him, um, and they continue, and they actually make it to the entrance where they came in, but they come to find that it is now collapsed.
Mhm.
um Amon Go communicates with one of the little Saprophis digger guys that was there, and he's like, there's potentially another exit this way. um but Deli, who is again was a little bit behind the other two, runs up and just full strength rushes into the collapsed tunnel to try to break it. um and he is successful, but in so doing takes more damage, which reduces him to 0. So he collapses on the ground, covered in blood. But Amongo is able to stabilize him with her medical kit, I believe it is,
Yeah,
and
or healer's kit maybe.
healer's kit. That's right. Thank you. So they're able to get away, recover a bit, and Deli is able to come to consciousness. And outside, they can hear the trumpets of war and the columns of black smoke, and realize that the armies have achieved victory. And now we kind of get a little bit of an epilogue, if you will. We're told that General Rococo was slain in battle, uh, that Lord Gustavo Uvano fired an arrow into the heart of Imperator Fakasha, which ended the war, and that an alliance was established to restore unity. The Concord was forged, and Gustavo is named the first Concordant Emperor. Um, the formation of this Concord is under the Bulbian Oath, which kind of imprints the faith of the bulb as the de facto religion of Calorum, and the Pax Calorum is established to balance the military forces between the nations and to also bolster a force for the Concord itself. And it's at this point that Matt kind of asks each of the players, "So, what is your like legacy? What is for
Yeah.
those that are dead and for those that are still alive, like, what do you do from this point? Um, so Deli starts us off, and he says that Deli and Colin spend some time together, but Deli's unable to resolve some of the feelings he had for being a pawn in these
Hmm.
games. And so he doesn't want to return to the Meatlands to Karn and inevitably end up another pawn again. So after a time, one day he just slips away, following in his mother's footsteps just to be an outlander until the end of his days. Colin renounces his title of Sir Colin Provolone and spends his time making sure the Sanctus Putris is no more, basically spending the rest of his days hunting them. Amun Go is basically just dying of guilt, and she wants to just disappear. So she goes back to Karna's safe house and just looks for like anything that she could use, any information that may help her. And she ultimately basically finds this hidden cipher of all these documents that, when like put together in the right way, is basically Karna's like ledger of everything she knows, the blackmail on all these people.
Hmm.
And so Amango is like, you know what, maybe this is how I can kind of do right by Karna and, make use of this. And so she goes to Lord Gustavo Uvano and basically is like, let me be your spy master, utilizing this information that Karna had to kind of get her off and going. Um, so that's exactly what she does. Karna, what impact have you left on the world? Matt asks her. And she says she left a letter to on Deli's bed before the events of this episode in case she died, which basically said, the only secret that I have left is that I love you. I'm not brave enough to say it to your face, but if you call, I will come always. And then finally, Rathaniel, same question. And Rathaniel says, there's very little truths left in this world. Most of his scrawlings were the strategizing of a man who was driven to the brink of fanaticism and zealotry. And what he realized in his last moments of life was greater than all of his best decades put together prior to that. So one of the most last moments of terror he feels is the hollowness of the vision of the world laid out in all of his scrawlings and teachings. So the echo that he leaves upon the world, since the archbishop is dead and gone, the successor, Brassica, he hopes that she will discover his writings on the Ramseyan doctrine and the Prophidian heresy, and his writings on the threat of the Sanctus Putris. And he also hopes she discovers the scrolls of genealogy in Rathaniel's study, the one that made Rathaniel realize that if Arthur Cardoon didn't have an heir, there would be a war. So he's kind of hoping his legacy is that the Sanctus Putris can never come to be again, and these
Hmm.
other um, writings he has are found. And that's basically the end of the episode. Sorry, there was a lot to get through there at the end, but the finale of the Ravening War, episode 6. Once again, if you're on our recap video, a link to our full discussion will be down below. But all right, man.
Okay. It always is so tough coming to the end of a series because I mean, I can't even imagine the end of like CR, what that's going to feel like.
Oh,
But
bro.
the
Those
closest.
hit different, man. Those hit different.
Yeah, I mean, when you've dedicated years of your life, I'm sure. But I was kind of, I'm not, I don't want to compare at all to Calamity, but just it was a similar feeling though to these characters you see on a week to week basis, and just coming to a close. It's just
Yeah.
sad, you know.
100%. I felt the same way. I at least had the copium moment of, well, we still have Crown of Candy that we can kind of jump into to stay in this world a bit longer. But yeah,
Hmm.
especially coming from Critical Role, I felt the same thing. I was sad that I was like, man, I want to spend more time not
Hmm.
only with these characters but just in this world. Um,
Well, and I just know you guys in the comments are gonna be like, so watch Crown of Candy, which we want to. We are going to.
yeah,
But I'm definitely like so even more curious now. I'm like, okay, so does the Sanctus Putris come up in Crown of Candy? And like, are there any things that now having seen, because I know there were things that we were unaware of that we were kind of trying to like read between the lines of like, oh, okay, that's a reference to Crown of Candy. But I just wonder if watching it, if it would be interesting now knowing what we know. Because is it like 20 years later or?
I think
10
yeah,
years
I think
later or
so.
something
I
like
think
that?
roughly 20 years.
Yeah, okay.
I think there would definitely be like click that's not the right word, but like moments that we could like, infer things from based on the Ravening War. But for the most part, I felt like kind of neither spoils the other that much.
Mhm.
Um that's the impression I got, but of course having not seen it, I guess what do I know? Um
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm very excited to dive into that and learn some more about this world. But yeah, just even though we do have that, I am just sad to not have any more time with Delhi, with Colin, and of
Mhm.
course Karna and Rathaniel, who are no longer with us. So we weren't going to get time with them anyway. But I wonder
Sometimes you just
if
or
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just say sometimes you just get a table that just has like a fun energy to it. So it's
Yeah,
kind of not only do you enjoy like the story is fun to watch and progress, like they're playing D&D, but also like just the antics and back and
yeah,
forth and like the little like details like um Delisandro calling Provolone Scald again
mhm.
and Karna being like, dude, it's been it's been five
My
minutes, man.
body's
Come
still
on.
warm. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
just fun
totally.
energy.
I yeah, they had such a fun energy and such
Yeah.
a great camaraderie. Like, this is another one of the words I can't say.
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie. Yeah, thank you.
Come
Um,
camaraderie.
camaraderie. There we go.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I mean even if okay, we're not intimately familiar with D20, but they do. I mean this was a sequel or prequel technically, but like
Yeah.
a sequel to okay prequel, but you guys know what I mean. So I wonder if we could ever get a third entry in the Calorum saga. If we
Yeah.
did, I don't think it would be with any of these characters, but um, would still be cool. So
Separate from that, you guys who know D20, because I know we've gotten some details from you guys who are familiar. Like, for example, I think it was mentioned that these episodes are batch recorded, or in general, they typically batch record, which is good info. But separately, do I know in CR, when a table comes together, they typically have a session zero where the party could kind of familiarize themselves or even like play a little bit together to kind of get a feeling for it. We know this happened in the original EXU. We know it happened in varying degrees with Calamity. I'm really curious, like, because when episode one happened, there was such a natural energy there. In D20, are there session zeros? Are there, hey, we're going to just kind of goof off and play. And then when the cameras go on, we've already had a little bit of time
mhm.
together.
Yeah, yeah, I'm interested in that as well. I got to imagine they had something. Maybe it's not like a default session zero like we're familiar with, but I got to think there's some like that wasn't the first time,
Yeah.
just cold turkey that they started role playing. I'm sure there's like a pretty big back and forth between Matt
Yeah.
and the players and maybe even Brennan to some extent. I'm sure they like kept him in the dark for the things that mattered, but just as the
Yeah.
original DM and creator of the world for like figuring out like
Mhm.
people's backstories and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm really curious if they have any type of session zero. I wonder if even so. I've watched all of the adventuring parties, and unless I just like blacked out, they didn't mention anything about that. But
That's the post episode.
yeah, that's like it's like a 20
Yeah.
minute
Right. Yeah.
yeah little discussion. I did see that they put out some other interview or something
Mhm.
with which I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know what kind of
The
information is contained in
behind the
it.
scenes thing or
Yeah, it was like
yeah.
Matt and it was as far as people, it wasn't anyone else from the cast besides Matt. So I don't know
Mhm.
if the other people are like behind the scenes people. So maybe some of those answers might be in that interview,
Yeah.
which I do plan on checking out. Just haven't had the chance to before we recorded this. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. We got Crown of Candy, so I guess I should be happy. But I wonder if we ever might get a third entry
Mhm.
into this universe. But even if we
Yeah.
don't,
Well, I mean, for what
still great.
regardless, I mean, Matt did expand the lore of the world with the addition of the garbage disposal god, which I think it's great when there's like lore additions that make sense for like the framing of the series. Like we're talking about food essentially,
Mm,
and Rathaniel basically said it himself. Like the only thing worse than um, you know, food that's devoured by like the hungry one is food that's just thrown out.
yeah.
So it's just such a nice. I think Matt created this sort of third deity that I don't know, had layers of like an onion. It had just layers of like this makes sense. I like this. This is really fun. And a very disturbing final encounter as well.
Yeah, that
So
part that was so, chef's kiss.
yeah.
Uh that whole moment where like Brennan realizes that, Des Pazul
Mhm,
disposal,
mhm.
that moment was just
Bro,
so
I just got
amazing.
that. I just got that. That totally went over my head.
Oh,
I
you
did not
did?
get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I ripped a short. It's on the channel for if you guys want to like see that moment again. Um, but yeah, you just said it, and it leads directly into Brennan kind of giving this speech about I don't want to butcher it, but what you just said, like food that's not even eaten, like you
Yeah.
know, uh, that moment when right after like everyone at the table is like, oh my gosh, that was amazing that you
Yeah.
just kind of like
Mhm.
came with that so quickly. And what I didn't realize, but have since found out, is not only was that like improved, but it was a riff on an H.P. Lovecraft line, um, that just makes so much sense because the bulb, the hungry one, are kind of like the archetypal, good god, bad god. And then you have the
Mhm.
disposal, which is kind of the way they were talking about it would be like an eldritch horror beyond
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
So like riffing on an HP Lovecraft line to then flex
Yeah.
that out so quickly was just,
That's why Brennan's the master, man.
yeah, that was
He's so
great.
good. He has such a way with words. When I was doing that Calamity video that we just put up, I just like I kept pausing, just being like, "How is he so good at these lines, man?" Like it blows my mind. I think some people just are gifted in a way that I just won't ever understand. But
Yeah, I for sure hats off to him. That was that was just such a great sequence. And
it's fun too, like when the table is also in all of it. Like the earlier thing where whatever line it was that he said, but even Matt was like, Matt was like, nice.
yeah.
And then Aman Go was like, he's like, yeah, we're just here, you know. You guys have your DM moment. We're
Yeah.
just here. There's nothing I have to say. So good stuff, man.
Yeah, two titans coming together, man. That was a
Hmm.
beautiful little moment for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've already talked about it ad nauseum, but just again, I got to shout out just the pun of Deus Pazul to disposal, and just like even being able to give Brennan that like moment of realization
Mhm. Yeah.
in his own world was just really fun.
Yeah, and we talked about this. I don't know where it was from, but Brennan saying how much he enjoyed and appreciated being in the chair as a player and like really wanting to do that for Matt, which I'm all for. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah,
Like my opinion matters, but I'm like, yes.
that guy from the
Um,
Pixelists gave us the
yeah.
okay, so
Did you hear
let's do
what
it.
they said? We got to do it. We gotta put a pause on Vox Machina season 3. Anyway, so yeah, it's you could tell Brendan had a lot of fun, and then I think the fire and water video you put up recently, which I'm not trying to have us like we're just like throwing it, and we threw this one up and that one up. It's just we're just enjoying D&D, honestly.
Yeah,
So I'm not trying to be like obnoxiously marketing, but the fire and water video you just put up where it's fire versus water, but then you had the interview with Brennan afterwards with him
yeah,
just being like it was so fun, like it was so great. um I don't even know where I'm going with this other than just like, yeah, it's special that Brennan got to sit in that chair. And I want to just throw out there again how great it would be for Brennan to do that for Matt. Because I don't feel like Matt gets a lot of time off, he's
yeah.
the ultra DM for good reason, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we already have talked so much about how amazing Calamity was. So it would just be good to
mm,
have Brennan over under the CR umbrella again. But yeah, of course, to have Matt get a chance to actually play this time, would be fantastic. And I want to talk about the episode, so I'll stop
Yeah.
doing these tangents. But one last thing I do want to say is that
It's
it's
good,
just
man. It's
so
good.
refreshing and nice to see the friendship and the collaboration
Yes.
where like because it
Yes.
could so easily be like we hate
Yes.
them, or like not even if it was
Yeah.
like outwardly said, but like never any collaboration because like I don't think it's necessarily fair to call them competitors, but like they're operating in the same industry doing
I
the same thing.
could very easily be competing products.
Right. So it could very easily be if not like a you know
Could very easy,
battle,
yeah,
it could.
very easily could it be very toxic subreddits
Yeah.
at
Well,
each other's
that's
throats.
that's still the
Yeah.
case, I'm sure, unfortunately. But yes, so just very grateful that the people in both of these communities are such good people.
Yeah, because, the tide lifts all boats, man.
That's right.
Pretty
That's
sure we
ex-
got it that
that's
time.
exactly right.
A rising tide lifts all boats. Third or fourth time's a charm.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
That should be a
No, yeah,
saying.
and I won't wax on top of your waxing too much, but just retweet. Love what you said. Totally agree. Let's get more D&D and feels good storytelling in our world.
For sure. Boom. Ship it. All right. So where to go to now?
Oh man.
I will say one thing that's not only true of this finale, but the whole show, but especially in this finale, is just the freaking battle maps
Oh
were
yeah.
so cool. Like seeing the heart of the world and
Mhm,
the freaking disposals that so not only like the design of the map itself, but the design of the encounter.
mhm,
The movable disposals were so cool. The
mhm,
like allied layer actions was such a cool
mhm,
concept that I
mhm.
personally have never seen before. I'm sure that's been done
Yeah.
before, but that was new to me. Um, that's one thing Matt's always been really good at is kind of just designing these epic
Mhm.
boss fights, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, just shout out to the production team and shout out to Matt. It was
And,
such a cool
the added
climax.
production. Sorry, I didn't mean to
I
keep
was
you from
done.
finishing your sentence
No,
there.
I was done.
Um, the added, little production things of, like, when moments happen, like, you'd see, like, the
Yeah,
mini with, like, the little stick attached to it and then being like, "Dink,"
yeah,
like, even, like, the one where, Cauliflower, like, comes back up as the avatar, and they literally just had, like, the camera and the mini just going it's
yes,
such, like, a home craft, you're in your own, like, basement, like, putting like, "Then we're gonna do this." But it's very cute and, fun, and, yeah, you can just tell people who really, really enjoy creating the tangible side of D&D. So, yeah, I agree. I think that was really cool through and through.
yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because that is there's a lot of differences between this and Critical Role, but that's one of them since they like pre-produce all of this stuff before even the first episode airs. They're able to go get these shots of like the action sequences that happen. So yeah, I thought that
Mhm.
was really fun. The one that just is ingrained into my mind is the it wasn't from this episode, but the crotch Sephiroth maneuver when they actually had the
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
go into the carrot. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, just super fun.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let me go through my notes here, but as far as I guess story wise, since we've been kind of talking on a meta level, where do you want to go here?
I don't know. It's always kind of like there's not a lot to like theorize, I guess, because it's the end. But
Right.
I thought it was interesting detail that Amin Go became the spy master for Uvano.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if her character got justice, so to speak. Because I think about her at the start of the show versus how she ended. Very much like trying to find her place, and um, she did find a place, but I'm just thinking through people's stories and backstories, and I guess really not a happy ending for anybody. Although the show felt I was happy at the end
Yeah,
of
I
it.
mean, I guess
I
because
mean,
they were successful and,
yeah.
at least 3 of them were able to escape, but yeah, not really. I mean, I guess the I was trying to decide who amongst the 3 had the happiest ending. Definitely not Deli. I
Mm,
mean, Colin just spent his days hunting people, which is cool, but I don't know like how like fulfilled or like happy of a
right.
person he was. And then similar with Almond Go, she like is the spy master to the freaking king of the land, so like that's a good place
Mhm.
to be, but I don't know how happy she would be either. So kind of a
Well, we got a
bittersweet.
very yeah, and we got a very tragic detail from her that she learns disguise self and illusion magic, and in the morning, the detail she said was in the morning she speaks to Karna,
Yeah.
and in the evenings to Rathaniel, which was such a gut punch, man. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tragic, it's sad, and so um,
And so wait, I remembered that, but you just put it in a new context for me. Is the implication that she like disguises herself as Karna and like talks in the mirror?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah, that's it's like dark, but like it's messed up, but in like a cool way. Um.
It but it's I don't say it's relatable. I don't know if any of us have
Oh
done
yeah.
that. But it's understandable. It's,
Yeah.
it's
hundred
just,
percent. Which
I think that's why I kinda think of her character not really getting I don't know if justice is the right word, but yeah, it's what you said. I mean, it's ultimately very sad, and, they were successful. They did save the world, I guess. Um, but I guess you kind of wonder what awaits them for the remainder of their lives. Hopefully, Deli had sex. I mean,
slam, slam down
so
big style.
yeah, he's like, I just want to make it through this to slam it down big style. But
Maybe he and
anyway,
Surly went to not slam down big style, but just walked the life of a I don't want to say eunuch. What's the word I'm looking for?
yeah, eunuch
Celibate.
is
Celibate. That's the word I was
eunuch
looking
is something different.
for. But
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, on Almond Go, there's really some cool like narrative parallels to the like learning disguise self and kind of not only being someone else in terms of like kind of
Hmm.
becoming a spy master, but literally being Karna and Rathaniel and like talking to herself. She had to reinvent herself so many times.
Hmm. Hmm.
From pre pre show becoming a essentially nobody to queen, and then
Hmm.
having to become queen to widow, widow to
Hmm.
warrior, and now warrior to
Hmm.
spy master. Um,
Hmm.
crazy journey. And then I just want to kind of piece this together concretely because we did find out that Rathaniel was poisoning the king, the late
Hmm.
king.
Hmm.
Um, did you take that to mean like because he said he did it like a lot? So did you
Hmm.
take that to mean like poison to kill and that's why he died, or poison to make infertile?
I think infertile, and I think I said as much in a previous episode, and I think some commenters too chimed in about it. But I assume to make him infertile, and because
Okay.
he also says like in that same sentence, like, and I'm sorry, I never wanted you to get hurt, whatever that cliche, stereotypical thing that you
Right.
say. So I assume that to mean like I think he said like I never wanted to take something away from you. So to me, it was keeping him infertile, though he regretted keeping Go from bearing a child.
Right. Okay. And then he's like, I'm glad you took matters into your own hands, meaning she did end up
Right.
having a child.
Yeah.
Um, and then we also got confirmation that I'm looking for it in my notes, but I can't find it. So, but we got confirmation that her blackmail was essentially this affair, I think, basically. And I don't know if it was they knew about the kid necessarily or not. Um, but I'm wondering, uh, I think Amon Go, and again, I wish I could find this in my notes, so I'm just trying to remember. But did Amon Go basically admit to killing the person she had the affair with?
I didn't track that. I didn't get that detail. So that might have been,
Or maybe
I don't
like
know.
not saying she did it like with her bare hands, but essentially
Mhm.
that person is
Like was
dead not because
like
of natural causes or whatever, but like
yeah,
kind of
like
because
she
of her.
hired was it or was the implication that she hired someone or like had the person killed or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, that yeah could very well be the case. Because the and again, not looking at my notes, so I'm probably butchering this, but like the the blackmail note said Van Penoir or whatever, which was the guy,
Mhm.
the father to her baby. So I think either she had him killed and like still owed money because of the, or not even necessarily owed money, but like her blackmail was like a ledger. Um,
Mhm.
maybe the blackmail was just they knew that she had this dude killed. But okay, I just wanted to kind of get those things right in my mind that like Raphaniel poisoned to make infertile. I'm gonna go if not indirectly or directly,
Mhm.
had this other guy killed to I guess protect her secret. I would imagine.
Mhm.
Okay. Boom,
Mhm.
boom, boom. Let me get back to where I was in my notes now. Sorry. All right.
Sorry, I'm distracted because my toddler's screaming at me,
Oh.
as is tradition for being a parent.
um. All right. One thing that I was just kind of confused, not confused, but I wanted to get clear with you is we have this moment with Ariana, who is big FDA
Mhm.
person, so it makes sense why she's down there. But then she is shocked at the true nature of what's going on here when the Des
Mhm.
Duel is revealed. I'm kind of confused as to makes total sense why that would shock her, but I'm kind of confused as to why she's shocked to the extent that she like is gonna attack the archbishop because really at the end of the day the rot bomb is still gonna go off, which is what Ariana wanted. So like
Mhm.
why does this eldritch horror entity really change things to the extent where she's going to turn against the archbishop? And maybe it's just like I'm reading too much into it and in the moment that's like a horrific thing, so you just, but how did
I
you
think
take that?
I th I think it is similar to Raphaniel's, realization of, um, feeding the hungry one versus total disposal,
Mm,
and how much worse total oblivion is than just, mass chaos. And
okay,
so I'm
yeah.
assuming in that moment she had a similar realization, like, wait, what are you doing? Like, that's not what we want. It's a little fuzzy how she like gleans so much in that moment, because she does. She's like, wait, what? And I was kind of thinking, like, does she know the chant? Like, what's exactly happening here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I assumed she was like, which is, it's a bit of an irony of, well, hey, we're super evil people, but I don't want to be that evil,
Yeah.
but so I think of
That's
something
just
like that.
that's kind of why I was confused because still like the end result was still
Mhm.
the same. A lot of people die, but maybe there was like something to it, like because of this chanting, because of this ritual, like it would.
But I don't think it's necessarily bad though. I think it'd be like Thanos. Thanos is like, yeah, I want the world to continue,
Mhm.
but I want things to be reframed a bit. Like I
Yeah,
think half the population needs to die so that the greater amount can live. It's why we have the subreddit Thanos did nothing wrong. It's like there's the ends justify the means.
yeah,
I think that versus someone who wants to just obliterate everything. Think of Ultron in
what
um,
if?
What If, yeah, just totally annihilating universes. Um, I mean, I see it. I don't know if it was super well executed, but I see like the difference there of
Yeah,
like, because I think that's kind of the greatest ironies of really good villains is that they think they're the good guys.
yeah,
Like we're doing the right thing. So
for sure.
anyway,
And I 100% see the philosophical difference, but I just didn't see the difference in the outcome
I'm like,
because either
you're
way,
not getting it.
everyone's dying essentially.
I pull out a whiteboard. I'm like, let me walk you through this.
Well,
Like, I get it. I will say they did my man Quiche dirty.
yeah,
I mean,
he
poor
got he
guy
got torn
never.
up,
He he did. He did.
literally. Yeah.
So, um,
I
Yeah.
I did like, because this is something that we talked about, I think, in episode, I guess it would have been episode 4, um, because we didn't talk, I don't we didn't talk in episode 5, so it must have been 4, but about what was going on with the archbishop when she like grew taller and was like really menacing. Um I
Yeah.
like that there was like
Yes. A
something going
reason.
on there.
Yes. Yes.
Which, and even I can kind of, I don't know like how much her mind had been kind of corrupted, if we can call it that, but I do even see her philosophy in that, like, we can't just keep going through this cycle of, you know, the bulb and the hungry one. Like,
Right.
to my understanding, she was trying to break the cycle just completely. Now that ended up with basically everyone dead, I guess. So like, what good does that do anyone? I don't know, but I do like enjoy that rationale, as it were. So I
Yeah,
thought that was cool.
and I do think it's interesting to note that both again, I don't know if you hear my toddler screaming outside the door.
I
But
can't.
okay, good. Just a typical day, you know? I do think it was interesting how like I think it's interesting the fact she was corrupted and also Rathaniel was getting visions. So
Yeah,
there's something there. I haven't really kind of had time to sort of because I just finished the episode.
yeah,
I haven't had time to like let it digest, but there's some cool, I think, detail there of
yeah,
their proclivity of getting influenced or manipulated. I don't know.
that's a good point. And this was brought up. I don't remember how, because it's been a while since I watched it, but I think this subject was like kind of brought up in the adventuring party, and I think it was essentially that like Despazul, this entity, probably had a lot of like tendrils out, like a lot of people, and it's just the archbishop got there first, and so that's why, like, so she probably had the same visions kind of Rathaniel had, but she like was able to manifest
Mhm.
this vision first, and so she became the avatar.
Mm.
So to my understanding, like, it could have just as easily been Rathaniel in that position, but
Mhm.
he obviously made his own decisions, and that kind of leads great into one thing I did want to talk about, is this like shift for Rathaniel kind of making the ultimate sacrifice play,
Mhm.
um, which kind of leads into another discussion too. We kept saying like this show is going to end in PvP, and it didn't.
Mhm.
They kind
Right.
of all united at
So
the
it
end.
had the opportunity to. That moment
Yeah,
where Cauliflower offers him, "Hey, join the team," and he was like, "I finally can join the band."
yeah.
So I
So
thought it could for sure,
yeah,
but
and it was on the table. Like Matt, like Matt didn't know. Like, he thought it could
Mhm.
have been PvP. The other people at the table were also like, yeah, we're gonna have to start fighting Rathaniel now too. Um, so I thought that was really cool, and his character just had such an interesting arc,
Mhm.
start to
Yeah,
finish.
and we kept talking about what was going on with him, and I loved how he characterized himself as basically evil and having tormented people and like a wretch. I think he said his heart was like worthless or I can't remember what he said honestly, but um, we had talked about like, is he just kind of like a more nefarious
Yeah,
person, or is he just kind of a bit more coy? And it was neat to get his own admission of how he saw himself.
100%. So I thought that arc was fascinating, and I think this is true of everyone. So I'm not, but I'm still just gonna call it out. I think it's so cool that, like, I don't. Brennan obviously didn't plan for Rathaniel's arc to have those stark points of, like, after the Queen of Candia was murdered, and then here at the end. So I think it's just totally unexpected. If you'd asked me from episode 1 where I thought that character was gonna go, so just thought it was awesome, and that like run into the heart with the grenade, as it were. I just thought was such a cool moment that I didn't expect to come.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was cool.
Um, okay. Real quick. We mentioned it in the recap, but that moment with the virgin and the deli being like, you lied.
Yeah.
Hilarious, but also like Lou Wilson, man, the
Yeah.
acting, like, I was
He's
like
great.
Shakespearean. I was like, man, like, this is like kind of being played for a joke, sort of, but like Lou is in it, and like, I'm with you, man. She did lie. Like, your whole like journey up to this point has been for naught, kind of.
Yeah,
Um,
I had to pause when he was chewing her out for a second, and there's a great like picture of his face like fully in it that I'm probably gonna use for the thumbnail. But he's awesome. I mean, I just told you I was watching like endless calamity scenes yesterday, so of course I'm like stamp of approval on Lou Wilson.
Love
So
Lou.
and we get him in Worlds Beyond, which he's been fantastic in too.
Yes, it's
I'm
been so
always
good.
amazed. Similar to Aabria, I'm always amazed by the range of characters. I mean, I guess it makes sense. They're acting
Yeah.
professionally, but just like how different each character is. I feel like all my characters in D&D are just like the same character, basically. So
Yeah,
it's just awesome, man.
for sure. And for any of you guys that are D20 people that, clearly are watching D20, that's why you're watching this video. If you haven't checked out Worlds Beyond Number, you got to. It's Brennan,
It's
Aabria,
really good. Yeah,
Eric Ishii, and Lou, and it is fantastic. Can't recommend it
yeah.
enough.
It's audio only, but it's really really good for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, one, so I'm scoping through the notes real quick. We did get, I think this was in the adventuring party that this was revealed, but a little tidbit of backstory was that Karna said her and Rathaniel first met whilst she was pretending to be Jacques Crudité,
Yeah,
because Rathaniel was one of Jacques' informants.
yeah,
Um, so I thought that was a little cool piece of
yeah. And
backstory, which kind of informs their relationship a bit
I
throughout
think she
the.
used the word paternal too,
Yeah,
because we've kind of been wondering what their back and forth was like, especially with their religious background being seemingly in
yeah.
opposition. So yeah, that was a cool detail.
So I liked finding that out, and then so I'm just kind of like cruising through. Do you have anything else specifically that you wanted to touch on?
Uh, no, sorry. I don't think so. I I kind of think it'll be one of those things where like as time goes on, and I like sort of digest it a bit more, I'll have more to say.
Yeah,
But overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well put together, like the production side of it, and
100%.
I'm sad it's over. So
Me too. Um, Me too. One last little quick run through of things. For those of you that didn't get to watch the adventuring party or maybe just won't watch it, they did touch on their backup characters because everyone had a backup character, which we didn't get to any of them, which
I
is
was
really
wondering.
interesting.
I was wondering. Okay, yeah,
Um,
because I know Brennan for Crown of Candy, I think told them to have backup characters, right?
yeah, so I guess the same thing
Okay.
happened here. But so for Lou, it was Kathir Activian, like the yogurt Activia. Um, it was a Dairy Islander. It was basically just like this nasty kind of stoic guy that was just going to go out and like murder people without question for like the good, like whatever he was ordered to do. Like that was going to be his character. Brennan's was Zir Kaban, and I might be butchering these pronunciation, but he was a piece of bacon that was bard slash rogue. And he was a Meatlander diplomat. Was really like a political player, super charismatic. Aabria was going to play Lady Melis of House Manuka, who was a Borderlands noble who wanted to be queen. She compared her to Marjorie Tyrell and was an Oath of Conquest paladin. And Zac was going to be Bishop Flaky Smothers, and he revealed that the crazy bishop from the Rot Pool episode with the voice like oh, that was his mini, like that was going to be his
Oh
backup
yeah. Okay,
character.
I gotcha.
Um, who was
And,
basically a Syresia Meatlands border person who was going to be
yeah.
like a mega church pastor, was kind of like that character.
And
um,
Jolly?
yeah, and finally, Anjali was going to be old Granny Palm, who was like this old grandma who just liked to mess with people because she was just super old and didn't care anymore, which reminded me of like Chetney from Campaign
Oh
3.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So she was a pomegranate and ran a little apothecary and was going to have like a little ghost fart as a familiar. And there's this really funny sequence in the adventuring party episode where like everyone goes around and makes fart noises. But yeah, and the little potential in for that character was that she could have been the old lady that was taking care of Almongo's baby, like if that needed to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Okay. I
Um,
gotcha. Okay.
and the
Cool.
only another little just interesting tidbit was the inspiration for that final sequence of them like running away at the end. Matt said was inspired by a sequence from Super Metroid, so I thought that was cool.
Nice. Nice.
And then there was some question about like what people in the FDA knew. and Matt said that about half of the FDA knew about the Sanctus Putris, so not all of them knew about that. Um, but and it was kind of like Scientology, like the more influential and powerful became, like the
Yeah.
more secrets you got
Oh,
told.
yeah.
Um,
I love
uh,
that.
but he said only the Archbishop and the Elder knew about Puzzle. No one else knew about that.
Okay, yeah, that makes
Uh,
sense then.
yeah, so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool
that
stuff,
ends all
man.
my tidbits. So that's all I got.
Good stuff, man. You guys are gonna have to let us know what you thought about it. Especially any of you guys who joined us from CR who hadn't watched D20 before. Final word from me. I really loved it. It was a great experience, and I'm really happy to have my D20 subscription.
Yeah,
So
100%. So glad to finally, come over to D20. We've been talking about checking out a campaign there for ages. Loved it. Did not disappoint. Excited to check out more campaigns in the future. And again, for you D20 people only that may be watching the channel, because we started covering this, and if you've never seen Critical Role, check out Calamity. It's the 4 episode miniseries that Brennan actually DM'd.
yeah,
So kind of the mirror to Ravening
yeah,
War on Critical Role's side, and it is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can't imagine there's any Brennan Lee Mulligan fans that haven't seen that. But if
yeah,
that's somehow you, like, definitely check that out, and then of course, check out Critical Role as well, because if you're gonna miss our ugly mugs, we're talking about that every week. So if you like this
yeah,
type of content, join us on that journey.
yeah. All right. Well, we'll catch you guys later, and we'll have more content coming soon. So thanks for watching today.
Bye, y'all.